Joining us as he does each and every Wednesday right now on the video stream to talk more about a multitude of different things. It is Dave Weinberg for a Weinberg Wednesday. Dave, how you doing today?
Doing well, Josh. Just getting back from food shopping. So I'm on the gorgeous Garden State Parkway at the moment, but all's good.
Well, it always could be worse. You could be somewhere else that's not so beautiful. So
That's true. I did get to the beach today, so I'm feeling pretty
Dave,
good.
I never doubt you getting to the beach. Okay, I think we have confirmed that your ability to find time for the beach or golf is very well done by you.
Yeah, you can add stand-up paddleboarding in there too. Yeah, I'm pretty much a beach bum.
Nothing wrong with that. So, I got to start here though, Dave. You covered the Eagles for 25 plus years, and Merrill Reese in an interview, and I'm not even fully sure why Merrill decided to say this today, or why he decided to phrase it this way. But according to Merrill Reese, the Eagles are close to a deal, and they're close to a deal with Buffalo getting Zach Ertz, but he doesn't have any special inside information, but he wants everyone to know that the deal is close. Your reaction to that?
I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, Merrill's been known to, he's a fan first and foremost, so maybe that's something that he thinks should happen. But without any details or whatever, that's kind of, I think it's more of like a pipe dream at this point. I mean, it'd be nice for the Eagles to finally find a taker for Zach, but I don't place a whole lot of stock in that.
Yeah, it just seems weird that the way he phrased it. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I'm being told this is happening, but I have no inside information. It's like, well, which is it? Do you have inside information and you've heard things, or do you not have inside information? So, I just always find it interesting when people who are not traditional journalists or media speak about things that you wouldn't expect them to speak about. And like you said, he is Merrill Reese. He's not an actual reporter, so.
Right. I mean, I think he might be going into his 50th year, maybe, or 40th, as the Eagles play-by-play guy. So, he certainly has a lot of history with the team. But you're right; he's not known necessarily as a breaking news kind of guy. So, yeah, I wouldn't place a whole lot of stock in it, like I said.
At this point in time, I mean, would you be surprised if Zach Ertz is traded for a training camp, or do you feel like the way things have gone that he might have to come to training camp and they might have to just kind of like iron out their issues?
I honestly hope that they do. I hope that they do iron out the issues, because I think Zach's too good a player to get rid of without to get rid of at all. I just think they're making a big mistake by getting rid of him. I mean, Dallas Goedert has a lot of potential, obviously, but I'm going to write off Zach Ertz's season this past in 2020 just to chalk it up to, just one more thing of a lot of bad things that went wrong with that team. So, but I still think he's got the potential to remain an elite tight end for a few years now. So I'm hoping they can. And he loves Philadelphia, as does his wife. I mean, they're pretty much ingrained in the community, not just in football, but outside of football. So I'm really hoping they're going to be able to work things out. The Eagles really don't have any power here. The rest of the NFL knows that they want to trade him, so they're not going to give up, second round pick, third round pick, or whatever. They pretty much have the Eagles over a barrel here. So it's just a matter of whether the Eagles want to take a lesser value, or if they want to just swallow their pride and keep Zach for the long term, which I hope they do.
Yeah, and you mentioned last year, it's hard to hold anything against anybody from last year. It's funny how we'll hold it against certain players, but not against other players, right? It's like, hey, Zach, hey, Jalen Hurts, you guys stunk last year, but we're not going to hold it against, like, I don't know, Darius Slay or Fletcher Cox or I don't know, any of the 20 offensive linemen who had to play because of injuries. Like, at some point it's like, the old saying, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? You got to blame everybody or nobody. So I'm with you. I have trouble blaming and being too hard against certain people when the environment around them was not made for them to be successful.
Yeah, you're 100% right there, Josh. You can't give Fletcher Cox a pass or Darius Slay a pass or Lane Johnson or whoever, and then come down hard on Jalen Hurts, who's basically was thrown in there cold without any camp in it, without any preseason, without any preparation really. You really couldn't expect him to perform at a Pro Bowl level or what have you. And Zach, I don't know what went wrong with him. I think the contract stuff really hung over his head, unfortunately. But you can't allow that to do. You can't allow that to happen when you're a professional athlete. But unfortunately, human nature being what it is, it does creep into your psyche sometimes and affects your confidence. So, yeah, I don't. I wouldn't. I don't think you can throw them under the bus and then allow Fletcher Cox and whatever to have a pass.
Absolutely. Dave Weinberg joining us for a Weinberg Wednesday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. At Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter. Extra point columns over at 97.3 ESPN.com. By the way, speaking of Eagles, is there anything more Jason Kelce than that he's slinging drinks at the Ocean Drive in Seattle, yucking it up with Eagle fans? I mean, is there nothing more Jason Kelce like than that?
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. He's a man of the people, I guess.
He really is.
He's yeah. I mean, he thinks nothing of going down to Seattle City or Wildwood or what have you. I mean, Brent Selleck had a little restaurant in North Wildwood at one point, and Jason was always there, hanging out with Brent and Eagles fans. And as you saw from his Super Bowl speech, he's very much part of the community, part of the fan base. He understands them. They understand him, and it's a great relationship. And I'm really glad to see him down here and enjoying himself a little bit.
The other thing is, and Dave, you tell me, what you think about this. I think there's also a part of Jason that knows that the end is near, that he's not going to play that many more years. So he's trying to, embrace all of this as much as he can, almost like he's taking his rocking chair tour almost before he decides to hang it up kind of thing. Yeah,
that could be. I mean, he's always done this. This is nothing new. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, I think he sees himself as the quote golf term. He's on the back nine of his career here, and he knows that it might be 1, 2, 3 more years at most. So he's going to sit back and enjoy the ride and bask in the attention a little bit. And maybe he's trying to set himself up for something, life after the NFL, whether it's a radio host like Ike Reese or TV or what have you, which I think he would be great at. He's a very analytical player, very good at dissecting things, but he's also has a sense of humor. So I think it would be a perfect fit, whether it's in the TV booth or the radio booth.
Well, I'm sure if he really wanted to cut his teeth on the mic, I'm sure, any of us over here at 97.3 ESPN would love to have Jason Kelce hang out
there
with
us.
There you go. Dave, I wanted to flip over to boxing here because I was watching the Lomachenko fight over the weekend, and a typical Loma performance, takes him about a round or two to really warm up and figure things out, and then he goes out there and dominates. But I ask you, okay, so people want Loma versus Lopez too. Is that going to end any differently though? Like, I don't really know. Do we really see anything from Lomachenko that was different on Saturday night, or is he just still the same fighter he's always been?
No, he's. I don't want to say one-dimensional, but yeah, you know what you're getting with him. Very tactical. Very takes his time. And he's been fighting for a long time. He doesn't have a lot of pro fights, but he was an amateur forever, and a leopard can't change his spot, so to speak. Especially when it comes to him, I think what you see is what you get, and I don't see it ending any differently.
So if he's basically going to just be who he is till forever, is there really?
Which is very good, but yeah,
you're right. He is very good, but I mean, is this whole rematch with Lopez a waste of his and Lopez's time? And then I ask, who really could challenge Lopez at this point?
I'm sorry, repeat it, Josh. I couldn't hear you.
I was asking, if him and Lopez are basically could potentially be the same outcome, then is there a better challenge for Lopez out there?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you there's not a whole lot of depth there. So yeah, maybe it does make sense to have them have a rematch. Yeah, I don't know if there's another fight out there that would draw the attention that would. I mean, like we said, it'll probably end the same way, but still, I think people would pay to see it. And yeah, there's really not a whole lot of worthy challengers, I don't think, for either guy, really. So yeah, it might make sense for them to do it again.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. And I was talking about this a little bit at the beginning of the show, Dave, and that is people misconstrue what we see on the court, on the field, in the ring, with the money side of sports, the business side of sports. And, you know, a lot of times these matches happen because of politics and money, not as much because it might not be the best fight. And I think that's the thing that the fans separate themselves from, because, let's be realistic, Oscar De La Hoya is not fighting Vitor Belfort for the love of the game. He's fighting it for the money that can be made off of it. So, I mean, these guys, they're doing these things for money. And I look at Lopez, I look at Lomachenko, and it's like, yeah, these are great fighters, but at some point they're also trying to make sure that they make life-changing money and that they have that one chance to do it.
Right. I mean, everybody's, it's boxing especially, everybody's tied to a promoter or a network. You saw, I guess it was Gervonta Davis that fought, moved up 2 weight classes.
Yeah.
And won the title. Well, they've already made it clear that, there's plenty of great fights out there for him. But Floyd Mayweather says he's not fighting anybody outside of their stable, so-called stable, whatever, PBC or whatever. And same thing. They're not going to there's plenty of fights out there to be made, but there's so many promoters, networks, organizations, sanctioning bodies, and everybody's beholden to something. So, it's one thing to say so-and-so against so-and-so would be a terrific fight, but there's so many hurdles you have to climb over to get to that point. It's a miracle that you see any good fights, to be quite frank with you.
Yeah, and hopefully, Dave, now that we see that there's apparently a lawsuit between Paradigm and Pacquiao, maybe that will stop the Pacquiao-Spence fight from ever happening, because at the end of the day, nobody really wants to see that either.
Yeah, the whole thing is ridiculous. If it seems to, I hate to sound old, but, there was a time when the best wanted to fight the best, and they were willing to do whatever it took to do that. Unfortunately, those times are gone. I mean, money being what it is, the power, like I said, sanctioning bodies, that kind of stuff. It's just that it's a shame that boxing has turned into that kind of thing. But unfortunately, that's the way it is.
Yeah, and you know what? At the end of the day, I think people just need to accept, whether we like it or not, that there's a lot of money involved in this stuff. And you know what? These are people, these are businesses, these are people who are going to make their money. And, if someone's willing to pay somebody X number of dollars to do something that maybe not be the best option, but might be the most money-making option, you just kind of got to shrug your shoulders and begrudgingly accept it. Doesn't mean I have to like it, but, you're aware of what it is.
Right, and generally boxing has a relatively short shelf life. I mean, Manny Pacquiao being the exception, but those guys aren't fighting for 10, 12, 15 years, like a baseball player or an NBA player. You have a couple years to make as much as you can, and that's the way and I can't fault them for that. I mean, that's the way you have to do it, because, like I said, you're not going to be around for a decade, so make as much as you can, fight the fights that make the most sense. You really can't. I mean, I'd love to see, like I said, the best fight the best, but sometimes that's not always the sensible thing to do, unfortunately.
Dave Weinberg joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, at Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter. Extra point columns over at 97.3ESPN.com. Now, Dave, I know, as somebody who you just called yourself a beach bum earlier, I'm sure you have a very eclectic or a very fun 4th of July weekend. So what does 4th of July weekend hold for Dave Weinberg and Kate May?
Well, now that the pandemic seems to be not gone, but going, I'll probably go back to what we usually do, which is fireworks on North Cape May does a great job on the bay, and then the following day, Cape May has theirs, off the coast. So it's time for gather with the family, sit on the beach, watch the people go by, and watch some fireworks, and then maybe hopefully have a cookout in the backyard. Smoke some ribs and make some burgers, and have a real good time.
Now,
how about you?
Well, my weekend, I'm still figuring that out, because 4th of July falls on a Sunday, which is kind of throws us at the station all out of whack. So we're technically off on Monday, so we had to Gil and I are shuffling things around. But I will probably get to see people on the day of 4th of July. Outside of that, it's probably just the family at that point. But
I gotcha.
No, but I was going to ask you.
Hopefully you'll have fun.
I'm sure I will. I try to find fun in everything, even if it's monotonous. But what I was going to ask you though, Dave, is that the good news is it's supposed to rain before the weekend. So this time, unlike Memorial Day weekend, at least the weather's going to mostly cooperate, where it's supposed to only be rain on Thursday and Friday, but then from Saturday through Monday, we're all good. So at least we got that going for us no matter what.
Yeah, and it's sorely needed for the for South Jersey. I mean, Atlantic City all the way down to Cape May. They had a really tough year last year, and it's great to see the crowds again. They're coming back in full force.
Oh, they're coming all right. They're coming, Dave. I ran into them today. Yeah. took
yeah,
me.
You always do. That's
took me 20 minutes to get from the Marmora ShopRite to the Parkway North entrance today. So.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
They're here, Dave. They're coming.
Oh yeah, they definitely are. Yep. I had trouble finding a spot on the beach today. It was so crowded with the umbrellas and chairs and everybody. But I'm one of those guys. It doesn't bother me. I like the crowds. Compare that to the desolation of winter. I'll take the crowds every time, even though it's a little inconvenient at times.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't mind the crowds. My only problem has ever been the people who are irresponsible as drivers. Once I see you in public, I'll be fine with you. But the people who don't know how to drive, I'm like, dude, if you don't know how to drive, find somebody else to drive for you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Come on.
Yep. That not being able to find a parking space. Those are my 2 pet peeves. Yeah.
Well, the best is when you're driving around a parking lot. You're like, oh, there's a parking spot. Then you get to the spot and you see the person. They have a third of their car in the spot next to that. So the spot that you thought was going to be free is not really free unless you're driving a smart car and you can squeeze it in at that point.
There you go. Yeah, and the golf carts too. That's another thing that drives me nuts sometimes.
Yeah, the golf carts and the mopeds.
Yep, absolutely.
He's Dave Weinberg. Follow him on Twitter at Dave Weinberg19. The podcast is Tequila and Touchdowns with Dave Weinberg. Extra point columns at 973ESPN.com. And he joins us each and every week here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Dave, enjoy the holiday weekend, and we'll catch up with you next week.
You too, Josh. Thanks for having me as always. Talk to you next week.